All right, welcome back to JB Squared. I'm JB Hager, joined by Johan Bernil, and we're going to take a look at stage 4 of the 2023 Tour de France, a sprint stage, a unique sprint stage, and then also a very important look ahead at a mountain stage. We have a non-categorized climb and a Cat 1 climb that I know Johan wants to spend some time on to get you prepared for tomorrow. Before we do that, let's check in with a couple of our partners with some special offers. Today's show is brought to you by Ventum Bikes. Check it out at ventumracing.com if you're in the market for a new bike. I am now been riding their NS1 road bike for a couple of years. I absolutely love it. It's just an incredibly just tight, responsive frame. I mean, it doesn't take much to keep me happy, but it's just the best bike I've ever ridden. And then just a few months ago, I'm like, especially around my hometown of Austin, gravel rides and gravel racing has exploded. And I was like, let's see what all the hype is about. Got my new GS1, and going through the experience of buying it online is so much better than I anticipated, because especially if you have the measurements on an old road bike or something like that, you can literally figure out exactly what you need, and you can customize your bike bit by bit. Oh, I want these upgraded wheels. I want this kind of handlebar. I want this stem length. I need this crank length, and then whatever component group you prefer. So the price can be as little as a few $1,000s on a brand new GS1, or you build it up and spec it out to a pro race level. It's up to you, but it's very easy to do. They're super, super helpful. Both online, on the phone, any customer service, anything like that. And you're just going to love the bike. So get 10% off when you use the code WEDU, WEDU, at checkout at ventumracing.com/themove. Today's show is also brought to you by HVMN. And, in its simplest state, when I think about it and what I've learned from hearing Lance and George talk about it, it's a whole other fuel source, so why would you want to leave that off the table? Most of the Peloton are using ketones IQ, some kind of ketones, and the HVM makes ketone IQ. Here's a little daily shot here, right here. Or, sometimes I split it up, take half in the morning, half later in the day, but it's another fuel source for you. It gives you more energy. For me, it helps with mental clarity quite a bit. It has really helped get me out of a funk. I've been doing a daily shot for over a couple months now, and I've noticed a great improvement. Also available, these very same Ketone IQ, the bottle I just showed you, if you're watching on YouTube, is available at Sprouts throughout the U.S., and we'll keep you posted. I'm sure it's going to be popping up in a lot more stores around you very, very soon. So you can save 30% on your first subscription order to Ketone IQ at hvmn.com/themove. Again, that's hvmn.com/themove, and subscribe upon checkout for 30% off. All right, Johan, let's jump right into looking at stage 4, sprint stage that went down today. I would love your thoughts on the course and a finish that I would not expect to see so many crashes ending on a race course. It's wider, it's smoother, yet we saw that. So let's jump into your overview of stage 4, Johan.
Yeah. So, as expected, stage 4, 182 kilometers, basically flat, just one Cat 4 climb in the course. So we could expect what would happen. Normally you would expect that there's a breakaway at the beginning of the stage. The whole peloton kind of knows what's going to be the outcome, but still, I was a bit surprised to not see any action. But yeah, your typical sprint stage. Everybody knew that, and at the end it was a bunch sprint also. I've seen, for example, especially on the commentary on TV on different stations, because I'm used to switch channels or switch languages depending on who's talking. Because here in Europe, since they broadcast the whole stage, they have several teams, and they have a team who does the first half of the stage, and then a team who does the second part. And GCN actually has 3 teams. They constantly rotate. So
see, that's because they have not hired Johan Bernil. You would not need to switch out. You go straight through, buddy, straight through.
Well, it's long. I mean, I have to say it is long, but you know, so I do, there was some commentators and also some journalists on Twitter who were kind of very, very critical of today's stage and the attitude of the Peloton. You know, they said, this is unacceptable. This is an insult to the sport. You know, it's not like this that we're going to get new fans to the sport. And I was a bit, I mean, I'm a bit surprised by some of those, because some of those are already very long time in the sport. And, these kind of stages just happen. You know, there's always going to be stages that really, you can't expect any spectacular action of anyone if it's not just, what we always call the TV attack, right? So the 3-4 guys go up front with the consent of the Peloton. They get 2 hours on TV, and that's it. I mean, I heard some criticism even from ex-professional cyclists, even from an ex-Tour de France winner, who said, they should take their opportunity. I mean, then I think to myself, you know what? Some guys have really forgotten really fast, because. One thing is, it's nice to be on TV, but let's not forget, we have 22 teams in the race with 8 riders who all have, a mission. And, we had 2 hard stages to start with, like really hard on everybody. So that already took a lot out of them. Yesterday was a sprint stage. It was really, really fast the last 50, 60 kilometers. Today was slower, but still at the end, they still did plus 40 kilometers per hour average. So it's not like not just like a training ride. And tomorrow we go into the Pyrenees already. So, and this is only stage 4. So then I think to myself, why would you, even as a team director, because the criticism was also directed to the team directors that say, why don't they give instructions to some of their riders to go in breakaways? Well, I mean, first of all, I think most of the teams are there with an objective. I mean, their main objective is not to entertain the commentators so that they can, talk about. And I can understand if a commentator is frustrated because, he's sitting there from kilometer 0 to the end, and there's nothing to talk about except, the environment and some, cathedrals and castles and churches and the region, but that's what it is. I mean, I think, and as I answered to one of the guys, I said, this is actually what I think. We could easily prevent those boring stages for spectators. I mean, the riders are never bored. The riders, when they have to go from A to B and they know that it's 180 kilometers, they're happy when they're bored, because that means that it's easy on them and they don't waste so much energy. It's not bad as a Tour de France rider if you're bored in the race. That means that you're at ease and kind of recovering or regaining strength for the day after, right? But I personally think that, a stage which is very predictable to be a sprint stage, which is very predictable that this is going to be the scenario, and you can look back statistically on these kind of stages. There's a breakaway at the beginning. There's nothing going on, especially the early stages of the Tour where the sprint teams are still intact. You know what's going to happen. So why would we sit in front of a television from kilometer 0 till kilometer 180 during 5 hours watching, and basically listening to people who have nothing to say? I can understand they're frustrated. So I think personally, these stages should be different. The organizer should make the decision. We only broadcast the last 60K. And when we start the broadcast, we bring a 10-minute recap of what happened in the stage.
Any highlights, crashes, anything relevant.
And that's it. And then nobody would be complaining about, oh, this is boring. I understand it's boring. But at the end of the day, you have to go from A to B. Otherwise, it's not a Tour de France. You have to take into account the cities that are willing to pay for a start and a finish. Cities that have an infrastructure also to receive a start and a finish of a Tour de France. This is a big operation. You can't just go in the middle of nowhere and say, okay, we're going to do a short stage because it's going to be so much more attractive. That would just add to the already big and heavy transfers of the teams. So I think that would be the solution to avoid people being bored in front of their television. And I said to one of those guys also, I said, listen, ask the best. You can have your best opinion by asking the riders what they think. If you think, because they come, this is not acceptable. This is just, laughing with the sponsors, and I don't understand why sponsors would be paying these guys to race, and if they're going 35 kilometers per hour, this is not right. And then I say, well, ask the riders after the stage, after today's stage, even if it's an easy stage, ask them how tired they are, and ask them how exhausted they are, not because of the fast pace, but because of the stress of the last 30 kilometers, for example. And it's also, a Grand Tour is also particularly special for the accumulation of fatigue. You need these longer stages, even when nothing happens, to get guys tired, and then finally the guy who recuperates best wins, right? So I'm pretty sure that if you ask today at the end of this stage on the circuit there at the buses to most of the riders, hey, was easy today, no? It's like walk in the park. They would say, you have no idea,
right?
Because in the mind of the rider, in the body of the rider, what they have is the last 30K, this stress, this fighting, this kicking, this elbowing, So I think that would be definitely a good thing to not those particular stages, not broadcast them from start to finish.
Mm-hmm. I have two responses for those journalists who think it's boring. One, let's watch 24 hours of Le Mans together, shall we? Mm-hmm. There's one answer. The other answer, if it's so boring, talk your spouse into having sex with you during the race. It's actually it's pretty fun. Just make sure you finish before the last 10K.
That's not bad. Yeah. No, there's plenty of other things someone can do between the start of a Tour de France stage and the last 60 kilometers. Go out on a bike ride.
Exactly.
Go out on a bike ride and think that you are doing those kilometers, and then you get home, and then you will be feeling so bad if you go fast. Then you will admire those guys so much more.
Oh yeah, I know a lot of our listeners, and I've done it. I'll watch the stage and I'll get on the spin bike. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
The journalists aren't doing that.
Well, some of them. So I was surprised. Some of them, have been in there for a long time, and also, what, JB? What I think then, is like, then I think by myself, what are you talking about? You're in this sport. This is your livelihood, and you're here complaining, and you're forming the opinion, because they have a big role of responsibility with their commenting. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, when people watch, they make up their opinion by what they hear, right? And so they're basically contributing to the fact that fans will not like these kind of stages, because if you're constantly moaning about it, it's so unprofessional, in my opinion.
Yeah, they should be finding the beauty in it.
Yeah,
that's the beauty of this moving train for 3 weeks. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, imagine, we've talked a lot about Tours de France in the past when stages were 350, 400 kilometers.
Oh,
imagine watching that,
right?
15 hours.
Oh.
Yeah, was it not 15 hours when those two brothers were 1 and 2, the brothers Pélissier? 15 hours on the bike?
15-hour race.
Imagine commenting that.
I don't want to be in a car for 15 hours. So. Okay, now let's jump into some things you observed from the stage one. I know before they got into the track, you had some question marks with Jumbo had this nice train. They looked like they were in charge. And the first thing I did was I'm looking for that Red Bull helmet, right? I'm looking for Wout van Aert to be on the end of that. What was going on?
Well, he wasn't. I think Jumbo did a really good job. It also shows their strength, because that's really a remarkable thing to see. Like the action they were taking was basically to get early into in the front in the circuit, and their main objective is Jonas Vingegaard. That's clear, so they're not a team that is preparing for the sprint. They're just there to avoid problems. But yet they were able to be first team, which says a lot about their strength to win that battle, that war against the team of a sprinter. That's not unimportant. So they're strong. And at first, when I was looking at the helicopter shot, you could see Vingegaard in second or third position. There was another guy. I said, today Van Aert doesn't wear his Red Bull helmet because there was a yellow helmet in third or fourth position. And then finally I saw Van Aert riding on the tails of another sprint train, which, was a bit strange. I don't know if that was planned. Also, it's so nervous that in no time you can lose your position. And then, but the fact that they came in first and Van Aert was not there definitely shows that their primary goal, their only goal basically is protect Vingegaard, and what rightly so, they are the defending champion. They're here to win the Tour de France, and combining two objectives like that is not easy. So I'm pretty sure that they've said to Van Aert before the Tour, okay, you can have your freedom, but in certain occasions you're going to be on your own.
Yeah, that makes sense. We're going to protect Jonas, and you guys do what you. I mean, you go do what you do. Wow. So where did he end up? I didn't even catch where he ended.
I think he was up there, top 10 or close to top 10, but he never got the chance to sprint. Okay. I did see Laporte in front, and he was looking constantly where Van Aert was. But I think since Van Aert had lost the wheel of the Jumbo train, he had gotten on, I think it was the Alpecin or the Koenig or the Soudal Quickstep train. I don't remember which one now. So he was a few positions back, but he was still up there with all these guys, with Groenewegen and Jacobson and Cavendish and. So yeah, I mean, I think his objective was to sprint, but today he just didn't. He couldn't find the opening. But yeah, I mean, Vingegaard was up there in second position coming in, and then on the other hand, you have Pogacar, who's kind of taking a different approach. He's more surfing the wheels, not pushing too much. It involves some risk. It could perfectly have been, for example, today that Vingegaard is in the front with Jumbo-Visma. It's all lined up. There are no crashes. And there's a gap in the peloton, and Pogacar loses 10 seconds. That could have been the case. Now, with the crashes, everybody gets the same time, right? But it's a risky approach. If it works out, it is quite a good one, because you spend a lot less energy always trying to be there, and also the stress, like you're basically surfing and looking, what's happening, and basically waiting for a crash, because that's what happens normally when you're like in 30th, 40th position. You're just looking and seeing the wave go in front of you, and then all of a sudden something happens.
When I looked at the finish on a track, and there was a nice straight run in at the end, I fully expected to see 3 trains from 3 different teams across the road. And yet the pace was so high, I don't think they could get up there. Like, it was just that fast.
No, it was really, when they came through that narrow gate, Jumbo-Visma was leading, and it was clear already. It was all lined up, and these corners came really fast. I mean, it was not like they came one after the other, and they went through those corners really fast. So there was never any time to, it would actually be better for a team, for a sprint train, if there's like a few 90-degree. This was just basically they kept the speed on that circuit, and it was all one line, and it didn't really group up again until, let's say, 700 meters to go, where you had the Cofidis guy pulling, I guess, and then you had like a little ball, but there was already not so many guys left, because with a bit over 2 kilometers to go, we had the first crash of the 3 crashes. Fabio Jackobson went down. I heard after the stage that he said he touched Mathieu van der Poel's back wheel. So, it's just pure bad luck. Obviously Jacobson is a guy who knows how to maneuver through the peloton, and he was unlucky for in the same crash another time Van der Poel goes down, right? But he must have gone down very, very, very bad, because after the finish we saw a picture of his frame broken in the middle. The top tube was really, broken and separate. So he must have gone down really, really bad. Luckily he could finish, and at the end of the stage, he came back. He came in quite a bit behind, but he was showing the cameras that he was okay.
He lost. I saw him getting on the bus. He lost a lot of skin on his shoulder and back.
He did a thumbs up to the camera. Said, I'm okay, but I'm pretty sure tomorrow he is not going to be okay. If you go down that hard, and even if it's just skin, they're getting to this part of France. It's going to start to be hot. They're in Poel. Sleeping is terrible. Obviously the next 2 stages are not for him, but he's going to suffer. He's going to suffer big time.
Another very, very impressively, no surprise, but another impressive lead out from Mathieu van der Poel. Like him, that combination, van der Poel, Philipson, it's unbelievable.
It is. It didn't look at first, because there were other teams there in the mix, and it looked like Philipson was quite a bit, I would say 10th, 12th position, and then Van der Poel comes, and I just rewatched the finish, and he only comes with a bit over 300 meters to go, and the speed he has, and the reflex that Philipson has, this blind confidence in Van der Poel. He just goes to that wheel. Van der Poel, obviously he couldn't do a long lead out because they were going almost full speed already, but still, that kind of acceleration of Van der Poel is just, it's crucial for Philipson. If you would measure the speed of Van der Poel in those 15 seconds he does, today maybe was less. I think that's the speed of any sprinter of another team, except the guys who were really close to the wheel of Philipson. Incredible lead out. I think it's remarkable to see Van der Poel, the frustration he must have had the first 2 stages, because obviously he had personal ambitions, didn't really find his best legs. He said also yesterday morning, he said, until now, I don't have the same legs I thought I would have based on how I was feeling before the tour, but it can still come. But still, he is good enough to be, no discussion, the best lead-out guy in the peloton. And this is, you have the guys like Morkov, and who is always considered like the best lead-out guy. Van der Poel is on another level.
It says a lot about him too. If I just look at it as a spectator, and when you know more about the sport, when you know very little about the sport, you have your favorites and you want them to win. When you learn more about the sport, you see moments like this Tour de France, where Van der Poel, who is a star, and with that stardom comes ego, and he is burying himself for his teammate. Makes me a bigger fan of him as a rider.
Yeah, and and like yesterday, today again, that's so nice to see this happiness of Van der Poel, having done this job, and then Philipson delivering Philipson to the win. The complicity between those 2 guys must be amazing, And I think it speaks a lot to Van der Poel to really do that kind of work for a teammate, show that satisfaction. And also basically, giving a lot more value to the team, because that he shows that the team is not just about Mathieu van der Poel. They have other riders who are really strong riders, and I think it brings up the value of the team so much more. It shows also that there must be an amazing atmosphere, because otherwise a leader like Van der Poel would never do this kind of work.
Mm-hmm. Another thing we saw 2 days in a row, you'll probably spend more time talking about Caleb Ewan, but also Phil Bauhaus, a name I hadn't been thrown around in the 7 years we've been covering the Tour de France. And I looked him up. He's 28 years old. So he's been around. He's obviously riding well, and Caleb riding very well. I want you to comment on them, and then we'll get to Cavendish too. But Caleb Ewan riding really, really well.
Yeah. Caleb Ewan yesterday, third, today, second, very close. Without a lead out guy, shows that, he's definitely in good shape. I think he comes into the Tour in really good shape at the right moment. Didn't get a win yet, but it definitely will increase his confidence. It will increase the confidence of his team. And, speed-wise, he definitely has a stage win in him. If you look today, for example, if you would measure the speed in the last 100 meters, his speed is faster than Philipson. He comes back a little bit, just, doesn't, because at some point he was more than a bike length behind, and he, I think he loses with like a quarter of a wheel difference. So, yeah, I mean, obviously this is an ideal stage for Caleb Ewan, not very hard. And, but, without a lead out guy, shows that he must be in really good shape and knows which wheel to follow. So, same goes for Phil Bauhaus. I'm also surprised about Phil Bauhaus. Second yesterday, third today. It is amongst the big sprinters. All the best sprinters are there. You can't really say he does have a lead-out train. So he probably has a guy who can, drop him off with a kilometer to go, and then it's up to him. So, yeah, quite impressive. Also, I'm really surprised to see Bauhaus up there 2 times in the top 3.
And then we got another look at Cavendish, and of course that's a big story we're following to see if he breaks the tie he has with Eddie Merckx for most Tour de France wins. He's on, again, not the strongest team that he has had for sprinting in most of his career, but he was right there again today. He didn't have the perfect line, but he seems to have the speed, and we know Cavendish knows how to find his way.
Yeah, so, definitely.
What did you see?
Definitely, he's up there. It's actually, I would say, the best I've ever seen Cavendish this year. Better than in the Giro, because in the Giro, he was, until that last stage, he was nowhere. In no sprint, he was nowhere. And you could see he was struggling with the speed in the last kilometer, or, now 2 times he's there. So 5th and 6th, 5th today, not far behind. So I think he has a stage win in the legs. It's not going to be easy. I think I remember I said in the preview show, I don't know if you remember, I said, maybe we'll have to wait till Paris.
I know. It's the perfect story.
That would be like, I'm sure he would hate this now, but imagine he would, stay in the Tour and just not win, and then finally win it on the Champs-Élysées. That would be like a fairy tale, right?
That's the Hollywood ending. That's your Rocky movie, right there.
Yeah. He won the last stage in the Giro, so he already knows what it is. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, right? For the moment, I think he's looking good. I think it will once again increase his confidence and his team's confidence. He was complaining a little bit, and I've been seeing this. I've been telling this already a few times. I said, I don't understand that. If it's clear to me that Cavendish winning a stage in the Tour is the main goal of Astana in the Tour. It's probably their main goal of the season, because it can save their season. It can be, in Kazakhstan, it would be, they can make it. Because over there, the media is completely different. They can spin it as if this is unbelievable. This is Astana breaking the record of Eddie Merckx. That's the story. That would be the story. Right. On top of that, he's not in the British Championships anymore. He is in the real Astana kit. That picture with Astana, that would be, that gives Vinokurov 3-4 more years of sponsorship, that picture. So I don't understand why the team that is around him hasn't been racing with him. You know, his main guy is Cees Bol, fast guy himself, knows his job, was brought to Astana at the same time as Cavendish, and they never raced together. They raced once together in the beginning of the season, and then the guy didn't do the Giro. Cees Bol did other races. So how can you have this automatic reflex? You know, like you don't need to say something. You just sometimes by looking to each other, you know what you have to do, and so. And he was complaining. I mean, not complaining, but he was mentioning that it was for a lot of guys the first time they were racing together. So I don't really get that strategy. But anyways, they'll know what they're doing. So if Cavendish finally wins a stage, they'll be right. I would love to see him win a stage. That would be amazing.
I think we all do. It's a great story, and he's a likable guy, and he's been around a long time.
Yeah.
When you hear George on the move earlier talking about, well, when I used to lead him out, that's it makes you realize. Hey, let's talk about tomorrow, and this is what's fun. Something if you've started listening to the move and JB Squared, one of the things you'll notice about Johan is he remembers when we've seen a climb before. Whether it was back when you were racing, back when you were directing, or even just a few years ago. And it didn't come up on the move this morning, but I know, Johan, it's like, hey, we've seen this climb that we're facing tomorrow on stage 5.
We definitely saw this climb. We in 2020, we had the same stage. And this was actually, no, 1 second. Let me just check. It was stage, let's see. Stage 9. And was 153 kilometers. I don't remember if we had the Col de Soudet, but we definitely had the Col de Soudet. Tomorrow is the horse category climb. Mm-hmm. A little bit early. That's a hard climb, but that's probably not where the action between the favorites will happen. It will be on the Col de Marie Blanc, which is, tomorrow's at 18 kilometers before the finish. They crest that climb. Well, they had the exact same climb in 2020, and that's where Pogacar won his first ever Tour de France stage. And then finally he went on to win the Tour. He beat Primož Roglič, Mark Hirschi, Egan Bernal, and Mikel Landa in the sprint, a 5-man sprint. So Pogacar will have good memories of that stage. Obviously, it's now a completely different race. But again, it's not against Roglič; it's against another guy of Jumbo-Visma. So. Mm-hmm. I do remember also Col de Marie Blanc as I don't know if it was always, but for some reason I seem to remember that whenever we had the Pyrenees first in the Tour, the Marie Blanc seems to me to be one of the first real big climbs where everybody is kind of waiting to see and anxious and nervous to see if they really have their climbing legs, because it is a hard climb. It's 8 kilometers, but the last 4 kilometers are in a forest. It's a narrow road, very steep, double digits. It's always up, 11, 12%. And that's basically where I remember always in the car also, like thinking, okay, are my guys really as good as we think they are? You kind of have to get the confirmation in the race. So tomorrow that's going to be the case. It's not an easy climb. We'll see, the 4 or 5 best climbers together, and then maybe some guys can come back, but there's going to be a selection. So it just depends whether there's going to be a breakaway in front or if it's going to be between the big guys for the GC.
And what's that 18K after the climb like coming in? Is it the kind of descent where a guy like Pidcock can do his magic, or is it not like that?
It's not an easy descent. I think it's about 9 kilometers downhill, and then it's like rolling a big road. It is, if you go down there full gas. Well, first of all, we would have to see if Pidcock is still with the 5-6 guys. Personally, I don't think he will be there. I think if he's there, he will be a little bit behind in the best case scenario, and he could maybe come back. But I don't think, if a guy like Pogacar and Vingegaard and Adam Yates and Mikel Landa and Bernal maybe, or David Gaudu, Jay Hindley, if they go, I think Pidcock is a little bit below that level, not far. So maybe he could use the downhill to come back, and then maybe within the sprint or with a late attack or something. I don't know. But tomorrow, Marie Blanc is a stressful moment, getting to that climb and then waiting to see if the guys are ready. It has nothing to do with the type of climbing we've seen until now in the 2 first stages in the Basque Country. Completely different.
Yeah. And I'm thinking back to these journalists who say this is a boring tour. Like,
no, they said it was a boring stage today.
A boring stage, but it's like, we're only on stage 5. This has already, to me, been a great tour. And yeah. And I just appreciate the Philipson Vanderpool thing 2 days in a row. What a show.
Yeah, crazy.
Right. Anything else that you want to say about tomorrow? And if not, I do have a couple questions for you and an opportunity to win a Ventum NS1, which I'll tell you about.
No, that's about all I have for today, JB. So let's see tomorrow what the Pyrenees bring,
Okay. Well, you do have a chance to win a Ventum NS1 road bike. That's what I ride. I love that bike. I think you said your son's getting one, Johan. Mm-hmm. He's going to love it. He's going to love it if he doesn't have it already.
An NS1.
The NS1. And just to participate, all you need to do is email in your answer to these questions daily, and that'll get you in the drawing. Yesterday, the question was, which cyclist has won both the Tour de France and the Giro d'Italia in the same year the most times? The answer, of course, from yesterday was Eddie Merckx, who did that, I believe, 3 different years where he won both. Wow. Now, this should be pretty easy. It's a Google away, but it's fun.
He won. He won 3 times in the same year. He won the 2 races, Tour de France and the Giro, 5 times.
Yes, he won them each 5 times, but there were 3 years where he won both.
Both, yeah. And then he did he won the Tour of Spain once, and he only did it once, just because he wanted to win all 3.
Right. And those, you may remember this or not, I don't know, but if those 3 years where he'd had the Giro Tour de France combo, was the Giro just prior like it is today?
Yeah.
Okay, because I know at some point it was after they didn't.
No, it was the Vuelta. The Vuelta initially, it was first the Vuelta.
Yeah.
In end of April, beginning last week of April, beginning of May. Then there was 3 weeks in between. Then there was the Giro, and then there was 6 weeks in between. There was the Tour. So basically,
the Giro's always been prior, but the Vuelta has made a shift.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So the question for today from Ventum is, where was George born? Where was George born? Of course, we're talking about our very own George Hincapie.
You mean George Hincapie?
Yes.
Not George Osborne.
No, George Hincapie. Where was he born? Find the answer and email it in to trivia@ventumracing.com. And then at the end of the tour, we're going to draw a winner for that NS.
I don't even know the answer, JB. Is his name an indication of where he's born, or
I don't? You know what? I don't have the answer in front of me. It's on my sheet for tomorrow. So I don't know. Okay. I mean, we all know where he grew up, but I don't know if he was born there. Right. Okay. And I have a couple questions for you, Johan. Let's see. Let me make sure I'm on the right place. Okay. This is from Matt. He says, first off, whenever my friends and I discuss the tour stage and then listen to JB squared afterward, it always makes us feel really smart when we hit just one or two of Johan's talking points. Anyway, we always get to hear Johan point out everyone's mistakes. I was wondering if Johan had any races that he would ever do differently. What are some tactical mistakes that you made that stand out in your memory, either bringing someone different to the tour or maybe a time when you pushed to keep the yellow when you maybe should have let it go to another team? And it says, I always look forward to your race insight and enjoy the recaps and discussion year round. Thank you, from Matt in Littleton, Colorado.
Well, pushing to keep the yellow jersey instead of giving it away. I don't think I made that mistake ever. I don't think so. I was always trying to give it away. I was always trying for us not to have it, in order to save the team, and then basically making some kind of agreement with a team that we would kind of, I'm not going to say give it to, but let it get away to. So that worked out quite a few times. You don't see that anymore nowadays. Completely different. Maybe, I don't think it was a mistake, but there was one year, I don't remember exactly the year. May have been 2001. When I think it was 2001. When a huge breakaway group went away, and we at the moment we didn't have the power to basically bring it back. So it was 30, more than 30 riders, and we just gambled, and finally that group took 32 minutes, and it was in the first week or after a week of racing, more or less. So, I got criticized a bit there, and also questioned by, sponsors and even Lance said, 32 minutes. I said, hey, it's okay. I feel like we have this under control. Finally, it was not a problem at all. Mm-hmm. The guy who took the jersey ended up, I think, not even in the top 10. Although one of the riders who was in that breakaway ended up fourth in the end, but he had lost time the day before, so he didn't gain 32 minutes, but he gained something like 15, 16 minutes. It was the sadly passed away already Andrei Kivilev, who passed away a few years later in the terrible crash in Paris-Nice. So that would have been maybe the year or the race where it was most questionable. But personally, I didn't have the feeling like it was a risk. I felt like we had it under control, and it turned out to be that way. I'm not going to say Lance won the Tour easy, but he won it with a comfortable margin. So turned out to be a good decision.
All right, here's another question. Let's see. I actually have two more. Let's see. Hi, guys. This is Niels from the Netherlands. I love your show. I have a question for Johan. One of my favorite stage endings I have seen was the stage to Liège in 95, where Johan went in a breakaway with Indurain and won. My first question I have, did you have a feeling Indurain would make this move on this small climb, or were you on his wheel by accident? And second question, do you think Pogacar could do something similar in a stage to win some seconds on GC? That's from Niels.
Yeah.
So that has to be a fond memory for you. This is a fun subject.
It is. I mean, for me personally, and actually today I was still, I'm daily in discussion with people from the cycling world. And I was in discussion about this stage actually today. Comes up a lot. Especially, for me, especially, it was in my home country. It was a stage in Belgium. So I finally was away within the Rhine, won the stage, took the yellow jersey. It can't get any better than that, right? Now, no, I didn't know at all that Indurain was gonna attack, and actually, I didn't even see him attack. I was ahead already. I was in a breakaway, and it's funny that this comes up, because now I can once again. I always have to wait until it comes up to make fun of Lance because, I was in a breakaway in a group and I attacked from that group on the second to last climb where Indurain attacked, but I was already ahead. And the last guy I dropped was Lance. And so I always tell him, you remember when I dropped your ass on the Mathieu in the Tour de France?
I love it.
And he always immediately says, I was all injured and, banded up, and which is actually true. He had a bad crash 2 days before and he was banged up. But I never say that. I just said I dropped arms. I don't talk about the crash. But no, I didn't see him. I didn't see him attack. I did hear in the radio though that he was coming once I was on my own. So I was expecting him. I kept a little bit, and basically a good thing I knew, because if I wouldn't have known, he would have flown past me. And so luckily I could stick to his wheel. Didn't take one pull. I mean, I wasn't allowed to because of the team tactics, of course, because we had two guys that were going for GC. It was Alex Zule and Eric Birking. Zule ended up finally being second in that tour, by the way. So, but yeah, I mean, and then to answer the second part of the question, Pogacar, I doubt it. I doubt it that this can be the case. I think for the moment, but first of all, when Indurain attacked, it was a stage that none of his rivals were expecting him to attack. That came completely out of the blue, even for his team. It was not planned. He just did it. I spoke to him afterwards about it, not straight after the race, but a number of years later. And so it was not planned. It was just, it came up. So I think that would also have to be the case with Pogacar. But I see Pogacar and Jonas Vingegaard so close to each other right now that I don't see that happening. Vingegaard is focused on only one rider, Pogacar, and he's glued to his wheel. So I can't see that happening. No.
Do you still have a relationship with Miguel Indurain?
Yeah.
It must be a very private person. I mean, he was very quiet when he raced, but you don't see him in the public eye much.
Lately a lot more, because 5-6 years ago he really started taking cycling very seriously again. And he is extremely fit, and he does all these Gran Fondos.
Oh, okay.
So he was at the start of the tour also. 2 days ago, I saw him on Spanish TV. He was doing the guest commenting. Yeah, we are still quite a bit in touch. Usually birthdays and New Year, and then some other stuff. Back a few years back, I was trying to find one of his bicycles, because I have a bike collection, and so I was quite a bit in touch with him and his mechanic from back in the days to authenticate. How do you say that? To see if it was an authentic Indurain frame.
Oh, yeah. Oh, very cool.
So we're quite a bit in touch still.
I did get to meet him once in Austin. He rode up to me and he's like, he has limited English, or did then. And he said, "You're the guy from last night." Because I had done an intro, I introduced somebody on stage the night before. Okay. And I'm like, wow, here I am. I'm sitting here on a bike next to Miguel Indurain.
He's such a nice guy. He's incredible.
Very nice. Very incredible.
Nice. Super nice guy. Very quiet, but if you really know him, he's super nice to be around. Very nice person.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And I'm going to hold on to that other question for tomorrow, but I was going to mention something because I still laugh in my head. A couple of years ago, I explained to Johan this 4th of July tradition in America where it's the hot dog eating contest at Coney Island. It's Nathan's hot dog eating contest. I have bad news for you, Johan. It was canceled because of bad weather.
Oh, wow. I remember when you said that, I said, what? So I don't remember how much it was. It was like,
I can tell you it's Joey Chestnut. Joey Chestnut's the defending champion and has been for years. He would have been there today. And Johan could not get his brain around the world record that Joey Chestnut has. 73 hot dogs in 10 minutes. Bun and all.
I was going to ask you. I think I asked you the same thing. Is it just the sausages or is it bread and everything?
Everything.
That's unbelievable. That's sick. I mean, it's like.
I know. Although I find it very entertaining because they air it on ESPN, it's a big deal. Although I find it very entertaining, it is just the most horrible public look for America worldwide. Watch us see.
It must not be pretty. It must not be pretty sight when at the end.
But canceled.
Too bad, and too. I mean, good for Johnny Chestnut. He got the keeper's record.
Yes, he does. No one can come close, though. He's dominant. Great, Johan. Thank you very much. If anyone wants to write in and ask a question specifically for Johan, you can do that. JB2 at wedo.team. That's just JB2. You guys named it that. We didn't. You guys just kept calling it, and we were like, let's go with it. So JB2 at wedo.team. Thank you, Johan.
Thanks, JB, and speak tomorrow.